Okay, welcome. I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first thing we have is assignment for request for council action. We have 2192 budget amendments, 2193 accept Justice Reinvestment Incentive Grant at JRIG, 2194 expenditure over 15,000 Chippewa Roofing Service Department, 2195 resolution accepting amounts and rates determined by the Budget Commission, 2196 repay advances, 2197 discussion and update of capital bill requests fiscal year 21 and 22, and 2198 authorized lease of Flex Portable Building Municipal Court. I think we had a modification here. We want to take the discuss and update capital bill request fiscal year 21-22 as the next item. Is that correct, Kathy? So that says 2197. And I think this is Mrs. Marshall, right?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So as we discussed earlier, and council had passed a resolution, which was 199-19, authorizing us to move forward with a capital bill request for 4 projects. Then due to COVID-19, the capital bill requests were tabled at the state of Ohio. About a couple weeks ago, I received a call from Senator Obhoff's office wanting to know if we still wanted to move forward with these, and we thought that it would be best to bring them back to council in light of the 10% budget cuts, because obviously there is a 50% match. In your packet that I had put in with this request, the letter included the 4 projects. Since we originally requested for capital bill, project 1, a portion of that, we did receive funding for the East Reagan multi-use trail connector. Is that correct, Jansen? Yeah. But we did not receive the funding for the lighting. Is that correct? Yeah. So we would still need funding for the lighting portion of project 1, and then we wanted to look at project 2, 3, and 4 again. Because this is a 2-year cycle for fiscal year 21 and 22, my thought was that perhaps we should still consider moving forward with this and see what happens with the income tax receipts and carry forward money and the budget cuts. In the event that things do pick up, we will still have that 2-year cycle to work on those grant applications or the projects.
No, I agree, and I think that if you recall, I mean, this is kind of a new cash infusion of $1.7 million from the CARES Act, and we did a 10% budget cut, which was about $3.6 million, so we got about a 5% budget cut everybody's been taking because of the money. It may not be spread equally amongst all the department heads, but again, that's definitely a help, getting that extra money to do some projects that are needed today and some of the projects that we're planning for tomorrow. But I think your request about moving forward these projects, especially the Reagan Park light issue, I think that's been going on for about 5 years, and Mr. Simpson can talk about that, and Rose, because that's been going on for a long time.
Well, no, Mr. Simpson has more detail. I was just correcting you. It's been, or more, probably since the day they christened it and let people travel.
It's been going on for at least the last 10 years.
So I think we have to move forward with that. I don't think we can delay that. If we're going to do the project, we're going to have to figure out how to pay for the other portion of the lighting of that project. And I think we could still move forward to try to get the grants of those top 4. And if you can, I don't recall the top 4 off the top of my head.
Okay, hold on. I could tell you.
I mean, you gave us the...
Project 2 was Historic District Replacement Lighting, which was Nino's project. We were looking at potentially another 26 historic lampposts that date back to 1923, which were deteriorating. The full cost of the project was $130,000, with funding requested at $65,000. I'm not sure where we are with that replacement. Is Nino? I don't know if he's here. There he is. So he could probably speak to that a little bit better. And then project 3 was the new dog park for Ray Mellert Park. Moving the dog park from its proximity to the Memorial Pool and Memorial Park to Ray Mellert Park. Project includes design plans, grading, fencing, concrete, and features at the new dog park. The total cost of the project was $70,000, with funding requested at $35,000. And then project number 4 was expansion of the parking lot at Ray Mellert Park, which included grading, paving, and lining of the new lot, with a total cost of the project estimated at $142,685. And we were requesting funding from the state of $71,342.50.
Okay. Any questions on that? What do the rest of the council think about that?
I agree that we should keep moving forward.
Yes,
I agree. Yeah.
I agree.
John, I'd like to keep moving forward on them, see how we
Yes.
can.
John, if I may,
Yes, Mayor.
we talked at the staff meeting, and the lighting, the portion that's the city share of the lighting can likely come from 108. So Jansen has issues. I'd like him to comment on the number 3 and number 4, because with some of the funding cuts we've done through the parks, I'm not sure that he would have the match that he had when this was submitted, so.
Yeah, thank you. So the 2 parks projects that are still on the list that are identified, as the mayor mentioned, there would be some concerns with the matching funds for those. The 2 current projects, grant projects that we're working on right now, the East Reagan Parkway multi-use path connector has about a $70-ish thousand grant match that I'm funding out of carry forward funds. In addition to that, we got a CDBG grant for the completion of the quarter-mile fitness loop at Ray Mellert, and part of that project is to install 3 fitness stations that are ADA accessible. That has approximately a $15,000 grant match. So that's a pretty substantial amount of money coming out of our carry forward, including the 10% cuts for next year. So I'm not sure both of those would be able to happen. There is Ward 1 open space funds. Keith pulled the balance. It looks like it's about $33,150. I don't know if that's maybe a funding mechanism, since Ray Mellert is
Right.
right in that
Well, I
ward,
guess the
so-
question is if we can get the grant, then we can decide if we're going to accept it, right? I mean, we don't even know if we're going to get it. I mean, these are the 4 things we'd like to get. But again, we're competing with the rest of the entities in the state of Ohio. I mean, then we have to come to a priority issue and an income tax collection issue to make a determination if there's money available to fund that. I mean, we know we need to get it done to make it more viable, so.
Well, let me ask Kimberly that, John, though. When we're sending this in, are we saying we have the match? Or we have the ability to refuse the grant if it's awarded?
Yeah, so we've already told them that we had the matching funds, right? When we initially sent all of this in, so they're coming back to us to say, hey, within this 2-year time frame, do you think you'll still have that money to move forward on these projects? Now, when I talked to Tom Hancock in Senator Obhaus' office, I was asking him, like, when does the state, when will they decide? When will they know if that they'll be able to even offer this money? So there's no specific timeline yet, but their goal is to have a decision before the end of this year. So keep in mind that we have a 2-year project cycle where we could do these projects and maybe potentially save up the money in the carry forward or whatever the fund is. And also we could ask for an extension. So I think Senator Obhoff is going to do his best to try to get us the funding that we've requested if we can still come up with the matching money. They will not accept any new projects, so that we would just be focusing on the 4 that we submitted.
Well, I guess that gives a little bit of a dilemma. What happens if we get accepted on all 4? And I don't know the likelihood of that. But if we do, it doesn't sound like we can say we don't want to move forward with it. We'd have to figure a way to get it done. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Well, we've never been in this situation before, but I'm sure there's probably been communities that have backed out in the past where they ended up not doing the project and moving forward, but yeah, I don't
I get
know.
it. I mean,
because- yeah.
The matching funds, I mean, 50%, we would like to have these projects done. If it takes a couple years, maybe we'd have to figure out where to get the money from. The future's so uncertain now, we don't know. I mean,
Right.
we got a nice cash infusion as we talked about, but we don't know if that's going to change in 2021 and 2022. I have no idea. So what do you guys think? Do you want to take the chance and say we want to go ahead with it? And then, I mean, worst case scenario, we back out, but backing out will probably give us a black eye with the state, and they may not entertain any other requests that we have in the future. That's the risk.
I'd like to, move forward And hopefully within 2 years, our funding will be in better shape than, I mean, we're not gonna know. But the worst-case scenario is we would have to back out. And I'm sure there's probably other communities in the same boat. You know, they don't want to give up this money, but they may not have the matching funds to move forward. But I'd like to see us move
Well,
forward.
that's the other question. On the capital fund, I mean, there's a lot of things happening at the state level where this money may not be available
Right.
in any event. And, you know, maybe there's one project that they can do instead of four. And that may be more doable. So maybe it's worth taking the chance to see if we can get one of the projects with a grant.
Right.
I would like to, John, also, I feel like if we get to the point of where we get awarded and we don't have the money, that there's a couple local foundations we could approach too, because some of these might have an interest.
Okay. All right, well, it sounds like we're going to move forward with those then and submit it to Mr. Abhoff and, you know, see where we can go with it.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Any other questions? All right, 2182, discuss the COVID-19 CARES Funds Act. Mr. Durham sent out an email. There's a lot to discuss. There's a lot of money that came in. There's timing restrictions. There's been a submission by each of the department heads of items that they would like, but that has all changed a little bit now because of the amount of the money. So Keith, if you can
Yeah,
briefly discuss his.
I'll hit the highlights and then you can go from there. We got $935,000 on late last week, so we now have $1.7 million, not the 809. We kind of knew that was coming. We didn't actually receive the money until late last week. So we have $1,744,446.29 is the total. Additionally, we may have to allocate some interest to it, which won't be a whole lot of money, but it'll be a little bit. And then there's a message in the county auditor's letter that if any governments return part of their money, which has to be spent or encumbered by November 20th, or else returned to the county, and then the county's supposed to redistribute it. So in theory, we could get some more money there too. I don't know what the chances of that happening are. And the other thing, I talked with a couple of you before the meeting. If it does happen, we're going to probably end up needing a special council meeting late in December, because if we get a redistribution from them, it's not going to be till easily into December, and then we're going to have to spend that as well, because it all has to be spent by December 28th. The rules from the feds are that we have to have it spent or encumbered by November 20th. So I put in that email and understand where I'm coming from, that we want to use that as the cutoff date for payroll and encumbrances, because I got to have a cutoff date some point where I know what we've spent before the end of the year, so we can put the rest of it somewhere. My proposal is, and I want to back up, I talked to Mr. Huber a while back, because the updates on this are coming fast from the OBM and everybody that does this. In fact, we had a webinar with the Auditor of State's office, and they put out some guidance in the morning one day, and then in the afternoon they put up an update to it. That's how fast things are changing. So I asked to have, I talked to Mr. Huber, he was okay with it. We're having Todd Hunt from Walter and Haverfield look over these requests to make sure that they are acceptable uses of the money. The reason for that is, if we're wrong, in other words, if one of these requests here, I say, yeah, it looks good to me, and we go ahead and do it, and then the auditors come in and say, oh yeah, that's not an allowable expense, it's too late to spend the money on something else by the time the auditors do that, so we would have to return the money. So I don't want to take that chance. I want to have them look it over. And one of the things that he mentioned to me was that his fee is chargeable to the CARES funds, because we wouldn't have had to do it if not for COVID. So I put that in as one of the requests here. I have it as $1,500. It's probably going to be more than that, but that was what I could do as a department head for a purchase order. So I did that, and then we got to have it spent by November 20th, or spent or encumbered. I want to use that as a cutoff date, so we in finance can figure out what the total amounts are. That payroll won't be paid till December 4th. So I mentioned in the email that, okay, in the week of the December 7th, we'll figure out what those totals are. And then my proposal is that we put the rest towards police payroll, which Mr. Hunt mentioned that we can use, we can pay a percentage of public health and public safety employees, so we can do police and fire payroll from the declaration of emergency. So basically from April through that November 20th. If that all makes, I know there's a lot of stuff going, it's going fast. And the other thing is that I just want to say before we move on is, all these expenditures, once council blesses it, as we go through this, we're gonna have to move fast on getting encumbrances out. I mean, some of these things are small enough that Board of Control can do it or the department head can, but the ones that are bigger, that we've gotta have council approval for, I mean, we gotta do it right now, because we gotta have this stuff delivered by December 28th.
Well, a couple of them on here that don't have any numbers on it. And I guess the first one we should talk about is this idea that Kimberly brought up with these grants for the local businesses. How much money, if any, do you want to give to a local business? Now we got $1.7 million. My personal opinion would be, you know, you got to do something for the local businesses. I mean, that's what we're here as a government to do, is to help the best we can and provide a service, not only a service that we provide as a city, but a service that we provide for businesses that are struggling because of the COVID issue. And my original thought was like $50,000 in grants. I know that Kimberly said she has a number to go through. Now, these are just to the city of Medina businesses, and make a determination who would get them. And she put a request in for $100,000, but I don't know how everybody feels about that. If you, first of all, feel that you want to do it, second of all, if you want to do it, what amount? At what amount? So.
First, let me say that the list that we got from the administration, the ones that do have numbers, most of those things seem like a really smart way to use this money. I think a lot of it's things that'll be helpful for us in a lot of different ways, and a lot of it looks like stuff that we probably wouldn't have had the money to do otherwise. With regard to the small business, what we've talked about is when we were just talking about the grant from Larry Obhoff, the state money that we're hoping to be able to match. I think the small business money invested in small business grants is important, because if we can get money into businesses, particularly businesses that are struggling, then that'll improve our economy. And when we talk about what are we going to do next year, hopefully if we can strengthen these businesses, we will be doing better as a city financially. So I would propose that we would put $200,000 toward grants to small businesses in the city, as long as we're sure that it'll go to businesses that are in the city.
Other thoughts?
The qualification process has already been opened up, correct, Ms. Marshall?
Yeah, so I put a handout on all of council's desk there. So we worked very closely with the county to create a program, and we created the criteria. And we've done 2 rounds of funding so far. And of the 2 rounds of funding, we've benefited 92 businesses in the city of Medina for a total of $523,098. So those 92 businesses represented 27% of all the businesses that applied, and 30% of the money thus to date. A 3rd round of funding was released, and applications have been received, a total of 259 applications for the entire county in the 3rd round. Of those applications, 42 of those applications are for City of Medina businesses, which is 16%. So my thought would be, if council was agreeable and we could pull this off through our finance department, is the judging for those applications are to take place on Monday, this Monday coming up, and whatever money that council would be willing to set aside, then we could use that to fund those 42, or a portion of those 42, and help plug the gaps with the county funds. Each application, we received a W-9, so that's already on file at the county. And if we were going to, because I guess the money is in our bank account now, so our finance department would probably have to cut those checks, so we could get those W-9s, give those to Keith. The county has been using a small CARES grant agreement that's attached as well. We could amend this using city council verbiage that we could give to the businesses to sign off on before we cut those checks. So the program is all in place. The applications are already in the pipeline. We would not need to go out and ask for more applications. We would just work with the ones that we've already received. And the criteria is up there. They have to be in Medina County. They have to be registered with the Secretary of State's office, have under 50 employees, and bring in less than 1.5 million in revenues. Those are those are the criteria that they have to meet. And basically, if they receive PPP funding, then the expenses from this funding has to be different than the PPP funding, which they list all that on the application.
So I'm gonna have my council members and Mr. Durham double check my math here, but if we did $200,000 and we did all 42 of those businesses, they would each receive $4,761.90, correct?
Right, that's right.
Right. Is that significant to those businesses to help them? $5,000, is that going to be a drop in the bucket for how much they need? Is it going to be beneficial, or should we pare down that 42 kind of by the ones that need the most, that are suffering the most, and just give them larger amounts?
We really need to look at the applications, and Kathy just dropped the book off today for the judging for Monday, so I would be a little hesitant to answer that. But in previous rounds, some businesses received $10,000, some received $4,000. It just was all over the board based on the money that was available at the time. But even if they got $4,000, they were extremely happy with that, because something is better than nothing. So,
Always.
and everybody has asked for a different amount.
Okay.
So what does everybody think about the amount?
And
I think it should be 200,000. I think 200,000 is actually a fairly low number when you look at, if you look at 42 businesses in the basket right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand what you're saying is some business may get more, some may get less. But when you spread it all out, I'm sure they are happy, as Ms. Marshall said. But it isn't a ton of money divided between the number of people that really need assistance, and that assistance is going to come back to us in kind as this pandemic plays out.
No, I get it, but I guess going through the process, you got to make sure what businesses really need the money, instead of which businesses are just asking the money so they can get it, you know, because it helps them out because they don't have to use their own money then. So, but what does everybody else think? We know that there's two for 200,000. What does everybody else thought?
What else would we do with the remainder? if
Well, no,
we
I
didn't
guess
use
the
it?
remainder, we have an HVAC unit that we talked about. The chief talked about a dispatch unit, and I don't know what the proposed number is on that.
Uh-oh, now I'm in trouble, now I'm in
Come on, but
trouble
what
with
is the
chief.
biggest thing on the dispatch?
And that, yeah, the dispatch console project, several of my projects don't benefit just the police department. They
Right.
benefit all our public safety services as well as the service department and the city as a
How
whole.
much is the estimated cost on the dispatch project?
The dispatch, to retrofit the dispatch consoles is about 121,000.
Okay. No, I guess the question would be, whatever we spend on that, whatever left over, sounds like it's gonna go to payroll, right? So we will reach our number. So, but I think we have to be wise on the distribution of the funds to make sure we use them the best way we can. Now, I mean, I don't know, I mean, if everybody thinks 200 is the number, then 200 is the number, but I just thought that was a little high, but I mean, if it's the number, it's the number. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we do something like, let's start with 100, see how that works, and then use the payroll to park it, and then if we need it to help more businesses, we pull some from there? Is it something we can do legally, I guess, first of all? And, you know, how do I say, allocate 100 to start with the thought process that maybe if down the road we need it, we still have another 100,000 there to help. Kind of like what we did when we helped Cups out. The thought was 5,000, but we started off with 2,500, and that blossomed into a bigger number than we were originally going to give them. So could we do something like that?
Well, and also we got to remember, we had the COVID relief for the water fund, and certainly these funds could be used to assist in that, I would imagine, since it's COVID related. And I don't know where we stand on numbers related to that, because I think that's still ongoing as far as the amount of deferred payments and forgiveness that we're doing for water bills.
We
isn't it?
didn't drop a lot of money on that. We normally do, I think 10,000 a month in penalties. We waive penalties for a few months. But it's not, in the overall scheme of the water fund, it's not significant.
Well, I think we'd have to be careful on Paul's suggestion. That might not be a bad idea. I would go along with the 200,000 simply because of the time restraints. We may not have the ability to be coming back and trying to reallocate money. I would start out with 200,000. If it's not needed, then we can reallocate that money to other areas.
Well, you do know once you give a grant money of $200,000, that money will be shown to be spent.
Well, no, I mean, but I think they're gonna, Kimberly and the judges are gonna look at the application as needed. So, 200,000 may not be enough, but I think 100,000 might, for 42 applications, and even if you dismiss some of those applications, there's still quite a few applications that I think that would be judged applicable, that I would vote for, starting out at 200,000.
Eric?
I agree with what Denny just said there. But I think we have to take into consideration also that as COVID numbers appear to be going up, and epidemiologists are saying that we could be in for a rough winter, some of these businesses are already hurting, already spent their savings. This might be the little lifeline that keeps them going longer. And that's the hope, is we don't lose these businesses in the community for.
I forgot to mention that it's about a 1-to-7 ratio on the return on investment. So for every dollar, $7 return is invested.
Jim, what are your thoughts?
I'm okay with 200.
Mayor?
I don't vote on this, Mr. Coyne. so-
I know, but what's your opinion?
Well, let me just clarify what Paul was suggesting. Although it's a good idea to try to bank the money, we really can't take the money, as I understand it, put it in police, and then pull it back out of police.
Right.
Now, what Denny's talking about, we can do the reverse. We can set the 200 aside, and if we only need 180, then put the extra 20 in police. So I think under that guise of giving them proper evaluation and review, if we end up with extra money, we do what we've been talking about with it. And if we don't, and we can help the businesses, I support that.
Is everybody okay with that kind of idea then, of setting the 200 aside and then seeing
Fine.
through the application process, if that's all needed, then those that aren't put through the grant process will go to pay payroll or whatever.
Right.
Mr. Coyne?
Right.
Police department.
Hey,
Yeah.
This may be already covered in this grant. I didn't look over everything in the application because I just got it. But the only thing I want to add is, if it's not already covered, to make sure that whatever the applicant needs to have in, it all has to be in by November 20th, or they don't get the grant.
I think that's all in right
Because-
now.
Okay, I just want to clarify that if, for whatever reason, and she said we already have the W-9, so that's just an example, but if we don't get a W-9 by November 20th, we got to say, okay, no, and it's going back to the payroll.
So to answer Keith's question, if they did not submit the W-9, their application was not included in the judging. So they had to have all of the information submitted, and if they didn't submit it, their application was rejected.
Okay, Chief, what else did you have besides what you have listed here?
So I have the dispatch radio consoles. That's the $121,000. We also have a phone and radio recording server that's end of life. It's 11 years old, and that needs replaced at $54,000. We have a dispatch video wall project. Essentially, we're well over 100 camera feeds now between the parking deck, the parks, the police department, city hall. So we need one centralized location where we can view those in dispatch so that they can be monitored and watched. That video wall project is $83,000. We have some cruiser tablets that need replaced at $21,000, and AEDs for every single vehicle. Those are the defibrillators that we use for LST calls. Those are at $28,800 for a grand total of $308,000 for.
Well, it seems like if we do all that plus the 200, we're still going to have money left over. Is that correct, Keith?
Well, yes, but we've also got this project that Nino needs to talk about for the rotunda. I mean, we're still going to have money left over, but.
Well,
there
yeah,
are a
the
couple
Rotunda
other-
project, yeah, we talked about it a little bit, so Nino, talk about that a little bit, but I don't think that's going to be,
It's not going to spend it all.
no. Mr. Pacoli, what's your idea?
You were asking me to comment on the rotunda renovation?
Sure, you're on it.
So Jared's here, Dan's here, appreciate the efforts. We talked about the sunk-in area of this rotunda, making it flush with the existing floor of the terrazzo. So where we're at is, since this COVID pandemic hit, this rotunda area has been used like a multipurpose room. Jared's here, can attest to that. The sharing of the area has been used for Skype, Zoom meetings, GoTo meetings, There's 12 microphones that are being shared. The county has used this venue as a facility for meeting. So we kind of chatted, it's a late game entry, but at the same time, it's an important item. As you look around, the carpeting on the walls, it's difficult to keep clean. The social distancing with the area that exists currently. The thought is to have zero entry, the floor would be flush. There'd be on the west end, and again, this preliminary planning, a booth area for the video and the sound equipment, and Jared can kind of expound on that as well. So those are the thoughts in a brief conversation that we had. We did pass a Board of Control contingent upon the council's blessing to enter into an agreement with the local architect for it'd be the proposal for the drawing, the services for planning, design, construction, demo, and documentation for bidding to prepare documents for the same. So that's it. in a
So what's
nutshell.
the cost? It was about $10,000 for the design and the bid spec, and then what's the estimate for what the cost of the project is going
That,
to be?
I honestly, I'm going to, Dan, maybe.
I mean, a ballpark.
That's a tough one. I mean, I don't know where we're at on that. It'd be-
Okay, so we'll put
It
that
would
down.
probably
as
be
we have
six
no
figures,
idea.
right? I mean, to do all this work here, it's going to be at least $100,000.
Oh,
what you're talking
easily.
about.
Yeah,
So,
I'm thinking like
I mean,
two-
right now, if you just get a $100,000 number on that, you're talking about about 1.2 million that we spent. So there's 500,000 left over. So it seems like that project can fit within it, and then we'd still have some money at the end for payroll, a pretty good chunk. So it seems like all those projects can be done that are listed on here, plus what the chief mentioned, plus what Nino mentioned, and we're still going to be okay.
If that's what,
I mean, we want to use the money. If we don't use it, we
Right.
lose it, right? So then we want to get these projects done, and hopefully we can give the grants out. And if some of the grant money is not used, it can go to payroll. But it sounds like there's still going to be, $300,000 to $400,000 going towards payroll to use this money.
it should be at least that, because I'm counting 650, and then if this is 200, we'd be at 850, plus 250, so like 1.1. There's some of the things are ongoing, 1.2, 1.3, we should easily have
About 400.
400 or 500,000 left over for payroll.
Does that make sense
Yeah.
for everybody to do it that
But
way?
that's all.
Correct.
I mean, that's all ballpark.
It's just the time constraints, that's the biggest thing.
Well, the thing is to get the projects done, and if we have extra money, of course, it can go towards payroll throughout, the safety services or whatever needs it. Now, that does affect your budget, chief, you remember that, so you're going to get a little extra budget money coming through the CARES Act, just remember that. But, yes, Kimberly?
Do we need to ask for the emergency clause? Because since the grants are going to be reviewed on Monday.
Yes.
I didn't know how
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, we're going to pass this list, plus with the additions that Chief Kinney put on and Mr. Piccoli added on. And then, whatever's not used, we'll have to reappropriate for payroll once we figure out what the final number is, and we could do that. But at least all these lists of these projects that we believe we can accomplish before December 28th, we got to get started. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Right.
What about some of the other departments as far as,
They listed them all.
okay,
They got them all listed here, so I think if there's something else that comes up that's urgent, maybe we can add it.
okay,
But it doesn't give them much time to come up with that because there's a time deadline.
okay,
But anyways, even if it's used towards payroll, that frees up the money
sure.
for other projects that they had planned, so. Mayor?
Nino, the HVAC?
Sorry, Mayor, we're talking about adding a few more things while John was in a good mood. The HVAC unit, I want to thank Dan before we start. Dan's been instrumental with his knowledge and his abilities with HVAC. So with the air quality that this current 75-ton unit, we have a 75-ton train unit, rooftop unit. We feel that we can have it spec'd out, integrated with the existing supply line and discharge lines. The existing electric, gas lines are sufficient. And Dan was instrumental in pointing out that this current unit doesn't have the capabilities or capacity to increase the volume of fresh air, ventilation in the occupied space, doesn't have the internal exhaust system, becomes overpressurized, which in turn affects the airflow throughout the building. comfort control system is obsolete. It's a pneumatic air system, and it does not have clean air filtration systems that are available with today's technologies. Having said all that, it was blessed by the Department of Health. I believe Barbara DeJure reached out to the local health department, and Krista said that she would provide that in writing to the city with respect to blessing the project with COVID relief.
And you have an estimated cost of $225,000 on that.
225. The unit could be purchased. We'd have to be on the fast track. And Dan can talk a little bit about speccing out the roof and having it, placed with the other one removed. At the same time, I believe Jansen mentioned earlier, we have a contract with Omnia Partners, which is a national consortium with respect to bidding. So Train, which this replacement unit would be a Train unit, I'm not sure if it's 75 ton or if it's an 80 ton, or it's equivalent to what we have existing, is available through that cooperative purchasing program. So this is doable by the year end, by the timelines that Keith had just referenced.
For the council's benefit, I'm sorry, Dan. For the council's benefit, this is something that we've struggled with for probably over 2 decades, probably since they put that unit on, because it was undersized in the beginning. And when it's cold out today, it doesn't catch up. And then 2 days from now, when it's 80 degrees, then it's too hot, right? So it's always a couple days behind. What that does then is causes some of the employees to either have fans going or electric heaters going, and then that raises our electric costs. And it's all because of the system itself is just simply not adequate, and there's nothing that can be done to make it better at this point.
Well, let me ask you a question. Can you get a bigger unit? I mean, can you oversize the unit, or is that not appropriate to do that?
Yeah, you can oversize it by a certain percentage. We just have to be critical about the weights differences between the units, so we don't have to affect the structure of the building. But yeah, we could look into that.
Yeah, I think that would be wise if we're going to do it. Maybe the new technologies make it lighter. Maybe there's different materials used. I have no idea.
And there is an exact replacement unit for what's up there now. None of it's a stocked item. It has to be custom built. Train is willing Train said they could put something together in about 6 weeks.
Okay, good.
So if timing everything went right, we could order the unit direct. We could pay our contractor to install it. It would be about a 3 or 4 day project. We believe we could have it done by the second week in December, hopefully like December 6th, and then 3 or 4 days without the use of that unit. We have a supplementary boiler heat that would keep the building warm.
Well, it'd be all right. I mean, it won't be that cold.
But timing is critical as far as.
Wear a coat.
You got jackets. People have jackets. They'll be good.
Juniors.
So timing would be critical on the order of the unit.
Okay, yeah. Well, it sounds like it's all doable. Does everybody agree with that?
Correct.
Kind of the list that we have, the additions that were made, and then Keith, if you give us the final list, once this is all over, we'll vote on it based upon the concept, then give us the final list of everything that's listed on there.
They may have, from Walter and Haverfield, they may have some language they want in a resolution that says this is what council wants to do with the CARES money. I don't know. I'm going to get that from them, see what they have.
So we need a motion with emergency clause subject to law director approval.
Move to approve with the subject to the law directors with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
Any other questions on the list for the CARES Act? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thanks, guys. Merry Christmas. No, just kidding. 2192 budget amendments. We have several. We have 20037, 916 budget hearing reductions. Keith?
Reductions from the budget hearing.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 9920 budget hearing reductions. Same thing.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2038, 7, 8, 20, 6, 17, 20, and 7, 15, 20 budget hearing reductions.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2046, 7, 15, 20 budget hearing reductions.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 20047, accept a check for Mountain Biking Association. This is just a donation? Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2042, CIG probation grant appropriations. Guess that's just for the grant.
That's me,
Oh,
sorry.
Hey, Cindy. Okay, Cindy?
Sorry, so this is, I'm sorry, I don't have my, this is for the J-RIG grant for two of our probation officers. This will, I believe this is the one where they are going to be retro paid, if that's, am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause they go from July 1st to June 30th, I believe.
19 to 21.
Yeah, yeah.
143,000.
Yeah, this is just a retro pay, and it all comes out of the grant.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2141 intensive supervision probation grant. Cindy, this is you again.
This is just accepting the grant. This is just a little housekeeping that we found out that we did not do. So this is just accepting the grant money so that we can go ahead and pay our probation officers.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 20048, repay advances.
These are appropriations to repay these advances that we're rolling over.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2193 justice reinvestment investment incentive grant to the Muni Court. Cindy?
This one, I'm not sure. Did we receive money for this one, Keith, on this?
I don't have that in front
No,
of
have
me.
that. The court got $48,000, but we have not received the check yet. It has not been released to us yet. So we're just kind of waiting for them to, we hear in November that that money is going to be coming to us for, I think it's 48,000.
So can we vote on, we got to wait till the check comes in to vote on this, or, I mean, there's nothing to vote on because we don't have anything yet, correct? Because I guess when the check comes in, we can
This
vote
is
on it.
to approve the grant. I think we can approve the grant. If we don't get it, we don't get it.
I guess you're probably
And
right.
some of that will hopefully go for some of the COVID money, like the security tent and some of the things that we purchased through the court that I'll pay for.
Okay.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2194 expenditure of 15,000 Chippewa roofing. Commissioner Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. Similar to what we had performed at Muni Court, integrating roof replacement in 4 sections, that was just completed in June, I believe, finally. Isn't that right, Cindy, on that one? June or July? So City Hall, same thing, integrated 6 areas of replacement. So this is for the city garage. This will be the 3rd integration we have. Last year was $30,000. This will be $24,000 and should complete the replacement of that garage roof that was really in need of replacement.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2195 accept amounts and rates from Budget Commission.
It's a part of the budget process. We have to do this every year, the emergency clause is because we have to have it back to the county within a couple of weeks.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2196 repay advances.
This is advances that we're rolling.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 2198 authorize a lease of Flex Portable Building Municipal Court. Cindy?
So this is for a building. It's like one of those construction offices. It's an 8x20. We're hoping to have it delivered, if possible, this week. That will then, we'll use as a security area. Then we'll do check-in, ask health assessment questions, be able to slow the traffic into court, to be able to do social distancing between the 2 courts. We just need, depending on the law director's view of the lease, we've been working with Greg to see what we need to change. We would need Mayor Hanwell to go ahead and sign off on that lease. The total is $5,381.90. It'll go up till June 1st.
Questions?
We need to, the account number is going to be 0705 for most of it, but if you look back to the CARES, it's, what is it, $1,694? The first 3 months is out of CARES fund, so that'll be the 170 fund.
Okay. Questions?
This is also heated, by the way. Currently, we don't have, it's cold out there in the morning.
Everybody
time.
wants heat.
Move to approve with the emergency clause,
Second, including emergency clause?
Subject to the law director's approval.
subject to the law director finalizing the lease.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thanks. Anything else to come before finance?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, meeting adjourned.